Hi, Max. My name is Ivana. I'm from Star.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Lila from Star.
Nice to meet you.
Transgender.
Hi, I'm Alina from New Generation.
Hello, I'm Hamayak, also from New Generation.
Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you too.
Sona, we don't hear you.
Hi everyone. Since we started with the introduction, maybe I'll introduce myself and just briefly talk about the webinar, and then we can move forward.
All right.
So hello everyone and welcome to our webinar. My name is Sona, for those of you who we haven't met yet with. I am the technical support coordinator of ECOM. And just a little bit more about the webinar. The webinar will be dedicated to the essential HR policies and templates that are recommended for the use within your organizations based on the ECOT organizational capacity assessment that you have undergone. Just to bring your attention to the fact that it will be recorded and will be available publicly online. Okay, so that you all know before we can move forward with the webinar. And with this, let me introduce our consultant today. Max Prodan will guide us through the webinar today. And welcome, Max. Thank you for doing this for us. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, Sona. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone, again. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Max, my last name is Prodan. I work in HR for more than 8 years, and for the last 6 years I worked in HR non-profit. Currently I'm working in one of the biggest organizations, ICF Alliance for Public Health. I don't know if you heard anything about it, but probably did. Let me probably start sharing my presentation, and before we start, I want to say that if you want to interrupt me, you may do it. So if you get any questions, don't hesitate to ask, because we don't have so many people, and everything you want to ask, don't hesitate, because there are no dumb questions, only dumb answers. All right, let's start. And here we are. Today we're gonna talk mainly about HR non-profit. Before we start, I would like to say that I always ask about what is the difference between HR in non-profit and HR in business. And my usual answer is mainly no difference, because in non-profit we're the same working with people, and our policies and all our procedures gotta be transparent to everyone, and at least we gotta have them. Not just for business, because some business may work without them. We can't. So why do we need HR policy? Basically, first of all, it's transparency. It's internal and external transparency. If you're talking about external transparency, of course, it's external for our donors. It's transparent for the governments, for the countries where we work. If we're talking about internal transparency, which I think is the most important part of this transparency, it's that your employees, people you're working with, they understand how exactly do they work and what do they need to do in case of something. Next one, formalization. It's come from transparency again, when everyone knows how to work, what to do, and they see all the procedures, so they trust you much more than in case if they don't know the rules. Again, it's because of trust. Objectivity. Why I'm talking about objectivity? It's not only about recruitment, it's about staff appraisal, it's about treatment by itself. Because when everyone knows how will they, sorry for this word, calculate it, how will they appraised, they believe that this is objective. And it's, again, we will talk about conflict of interest policy and prevention nepotism, and again, it's about objectivity. Treatment, what do I mean by treatment? When I say treatment, I mean that every employee got to be sure that he treated only by his skills, not because of his some attitude or anything like this. And the last one, it's donors. Because donors always ask, how do you do recruitment? How do you hire? How do you fire? What do you do with your staff? Because again, in business and in non-profit, mainly non-profit, everything that we do with our employees, with people we hire. And without them, we just can't reach our goals. What are we going to talk today? We will talk about recruitment. We will talk about performance management and appraisal, and we will talk about training and development. Let's start from recruitment. When you have a decision to start a recruitment, or it's going to be a new hire, or it's a replacement, doesn't matter. First of all, what you gotta do, you gotta develop. If you don't have it, it's job description. Why job description is so important? Because first of all, if we are talking about new hires, about new posts, why developing job description? You understand what skills do you need from your future employee, and what exactly will he or she do, the responsibilities. And while writing this job description, while discussing with line manager, directors, and every involved person, you now may be clear and sure about what to highlight in your job announcement, and what exactly will you look from your future employee. Announcement. I will move a little bit further. So, talking about announcement, we see a lot of different, some funny, some not, some not too smart, I would say. But if we're talking about common rules, what do you have to put in your announcement for it to be informative for your participants? First of all, of course, it's brief information about your organization with any websites or any other things that may allow your future employee just to hire, to find information about. Job proposal, job role. Again, it's coming from job description. And it's generally means what exactly this post, this role, this employee, this human being will have to achieve during his or her role. Requirements. Again, requirements coming from the job description. Application deadline. It's usual thing, because again, it will help you to strive people to apply to your announcement, because if they know there is deadline, they won't forget if they want to apply. About any statement, it's, I mentioned equal opportunity statement, but again, you can state other in case of support of any group. But again, you can't state any age, race, or anything sorry. So only information about posts and contact information. And one very important thing, if you don't want to answer dozens of phone calls or emails, did I pass the press screening or something like this? Only pre-selected candidates will be conducted the interview statement, and it still helps and it saves your time. Going back a little bit, job description. Job description is not a standard operation procedure. So when you develop a job description, don't write how to do, write just what to do. And I stated responsibilities, not only duties, because when I'm talking about responsibilities, in job description, you gotta state for what part employee will be responsible for. So generally, it's his key performance indicator, how you will evaluate his job. Screening. Scoring, screening. Let me open this HR policy. Everything that you hear from me now, yes, sorry, you will find is this HR policy. It's kind of big, and I hope it will help you. So talking about screening, we can use different methods of screening. We can take a look on the CVs only in case if we have any questions regarding anything in CV. If you're really interested in the candidate, you can talk to him preliminary via phone. But again, the best way to evaluate a candidate is, of course, interview. Talking about pre-screening and shortlisting, I will move a little bit down. So we'll talk about conflict of interest in recruitment and selection process, because it's really important part of any HR policy and any recruitment process. So here's like an example of what best way to input to your email when you are sending, or HR or whatever person is responsible for the recruitment process. So it's kind of a reminder that in case if you get any conflict of interest or possible conflict of interest with any participant, you should inform all persons or all employees who is involved in scoring and recruitment process. Just for example, of course, we're mainly talking about relatives, spouse, or whatever. But sometimes, if just from it's my own, probably, because half a year ago, maybe a little bit more, my friend of mine applied to a post, and I know that my judgments may cause unfair treatment, and that's why I decided to inform all involved people, all employees, that I got some kind of conflict of interest. Why do I do it? Because if it will be known after job description, job offer, it may harm, and this recruitment process may be known as non-competitive. And of course, it's bad for organization, bad for me, bad for candidate, bad for everyone. So you gotta have maximum objectivity during every stage of your recruitment process. So now we're talking about interview. When you got all the pre-selected candidates shortlisted, you contact them, and for interview, I prepared for you its named interview script. So here you may find most common questions, mainly it's HR part, or again, a person that is responsible for HR in your organization. So using and preparing this interview script before first interview, you won't have just to sit quietly and thinking about what to ask. And most important thing, you won't interrupt each other because you get questions for everyone. So if we're talking about general questions, it's just common questions. Usually these questions don't change from interview script to interview script because again, you may see it. Why are you interested? It's a brief description of duties and so on, so on, so on. The second part, technical questions, or hard skills, whatever you call them. This part will change from post to post, from recruitment process to recruitment process, because here, line manager, the person responsible for part of the project implementation, should state questions. It's going to be technical questions. Here you get example questions for HR officer. So we're talking about the job of the candidate and his professional skills. I'll come back to scoring and why is it important to state, because when you will score your candidate, you will score the professional skills. And those questions that you got in your interview script, they have to answer on experience and on skills of the candidate. So, for example, here we're talking about experience in budgeting, experience in and advocacy, etc. So, wherever you think it's crucial for this post that this candidate can't work without having those skills. So this. Yeah, we're going down. Every interview panel member will have those interview scripts and will have the score sheet. So here is kind of easy. So you get the score. The weight of the score you can change from generally from 1 to 5. But if it's going to be 2, maybe you shouldn't score it if it's not so important or not important at all. Don't put everything in here in professional skills, just core competence that you need, that you will evaluate during interview. Because sometimes you want to put about 10 professional skills that you want from this employee, and it's gonna be a mess. It won't be objective, by the way. Here you got weighted score, it's 5 by 4. And the total, of course, it's the sum. You're going to have about the same interview script for the second round with modified questions. Some of them may be about the same, but again, you gotta do interview script for the second round based on the information that you get from your candidates during first round, because maybe you understood that you forgot to clarify something, or you need to clarify something more, so you just state it. Scoring going to be about the same. I don't know if you noticed I got test here. I think test is really important part. It may be applied for everyone, starting from volunteers. up to directors, because during this test you can assure that person, that everything that you heard from the person, that he or she is really available to do everything that he or she stated in CV or mentioned during interview. One thing, if we're talking about written test, please be sure that it won't take more than an hour and a half. Just of course, if we'll talk about, I don't know, Amazon, Google, wherever, it can take weeks, and you have different stages even for this task. But you should understand that this candidate may apply not only to your organization, he may apply to any others. And in case if he will think that you take too much of his time, or he got job offer already, but he's still interested in your organization, it just may do harm than any additional value. Any questions regarding interviews? All right, it's been no. Again, you will have this recruitment matrix. It's mentioned who's responsible for what in this recruitment process. Again, you will modify it according to your needs, according to your organizational structure, and if you got some dedicated person to HR, if not, you can again modify it. By the way, everything that you'll receive, it should be modified, because I try to write as much as possible for you just to choose what will you apply and what not. So, and of course, after the second round, you should decide based on the scoring, and it's going to be not subjective, it's going to be objective. What candidate to move forward and to provide job offer. When I'm talking about second interview, again, it's common way to check your candidate, because sometimes candidates in the first interview, his behavior and his answers may be different from those that he did on the second interview. And by the way, on the first and second interview, gotta be at least one person, the same person. I mean, usually it's again HR, because he may see the difference between those two interviews. I didn't mention it here, but reference check. I won't say that a reference check is something that can help you much, especially when you're using those reference who is provided by the candidate, because of course usually people give contacts on those with whom they are in good relations. And if you want to have really good reference check, the best way to try to find by yourself. For example, you can just phone to organization or to company if this person came from business, and try to find out whom he did work with, or contact with HR, because usually HR they may say a lot, and they talking about reference and the ex-employees. But please don't call if the person currently working and his current on his current work they're not available, or they don't know that he's searching for a new job. Please don't call him. It's again conflict of interest. I already mentioned it, and you will have a policy of conflict.
If I may just hold on for you to see me better. Just before we move to the conflict of interest management and stuff, Can you please just explain a little bit on how open recruitment is different from internal recruitment?
Yeah, of course.
Because sometimes we do announce the position openly, and then we have also the internal recruitment, and in which cases and circumstances we can move, and how the procedure is different.
Generally, if we're talking about internal recruitment, yeah, we start this procedure when we have one or more candidates internal for the posts that we want to announce. It's part of staff promotion, and generally, again, we get like pre-selected candidate. So if we're sure that we will close our vacant post with internal employee. If we want to check a wide range of candidates, if we're not 100% sure about our current employee, we announce external recruitment. But again, I stated it in HR policy, in case if employee applies for any open posts, he gotta be interviewed at least for the first round. And it's really important because again, if this employee will not pass, you'll give him good feedback. He or she will understand what exactly should be learned, should be developed in perspective of his professional development, or maybe behavior, because sometimes it happens too. If we're talking about internal recruitment, it's going to be a little bit easier because preliminary, again, mainly all the skills and technical skills. So it's going to be questions about how does the person see the objectives of this new post. What exactly does he or she need to learn? And basically, briefly, this is like,
my question was more about the procedural part. So in any case, you are announcing the position openly, and then if there are internal candidates, they can apply, or is that not an absolute requirement for the internal recruitment?
No, you can decide to announce internal or external recruitment. In case if you announcing internal recruitment, it's going to be available only for employees, and it's going to be announced internally. If we're talking about external recruitment, we announce it externally using different sources, and if some of the employee applied for the post, he gotta have the interview. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So conflict of interest. Let me open it for you. Again, you will have it. You will have it in written form, so you can check it more precisely. But the main purpose, and I stated here, that we by providing conflict of interest policy, we ensuring that every decision in our organization is clear for everyone. And it's not subjective. Again, I mentioned it a couple times today, and probably I will say this word again, but it's going to be objective as possible. So I've been talking about conflict of interest during the recruitment process, and it's generally going forward. We're talking about conflict of interest during daily business. So in case if there is any financial interest from I won't talk much about conflict of interest now, because again, it will take maybe hours of our webinar. But if there is any possibility, I'm talking about even possibilities of conflict of interest, first rule, you gotta inform all involved person. If we're talking about tenders, if we're talking about some contracts, if we're talking about recruitment, if we're talking about anything that may that is connected to the organizational activities, if you have a possibility, better say it than not. Because again, if you think it's not important and you're kind of objective to the process from the perspective of other involved person and from the perspective of donors, it may be different. It's again, it's going down, we're going to nepotism. It's again about coming from conflict of interest in recruitment policy, because your relative, by the way, relative is kind of, you see, it's really not the common meaning. It's any relations that you have with a person. He or she can't be your direct subordinate, or you can take part in appraisal procedure, and you can decide anything regarding bonuses, salaries, pay levels. Again, the first that I was talking about HR policy, I was talking about trust. This is about this. If everyone understands how do they treat, how do they praise, how do they pay it, it's getting easier for everyone to work. Talking about who is responsible for conflict of interest. If we're talking about our organization, we got different posts and different person who is responsible for compliance and conflict of interest policy. In general and usually, the responsible person is the director of the organization, the board. So when you will check this policy, I think the first question just it will appear that who is mainly responsible for it. Governing board responsible for implementation of conflict of interest policy. Going a little bit back to recruitment process, we are talking about probation period. Probation period generally is really a part of recruitment process, because while your new employee didn't pass the probation period, you can't be sure that your vacant post is closed. Let me open. Sorry, probation period review form. Oops. So talking about probation period, it's usually 3 months. It may be prolonged to 6 months. Here's a draft. Here's an example that you may use it as it is, because I think it's quite comprehensive. Probation reform. Talking about why do we need it? Because we need to ensure during first 3 months, during first 6 months, because sometimes for top posts, 6 months probation period may be applied. Because sometimes in 4 or 5 months, I don't know, for example, for some kind of director, you may see the progress and really may evaluate his or her work. So on this probation period review form, you should use it at least twice. First, it's after first month, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, up to 1 month of length of work for your new employee. And the second one, it's usually again it's final in 3 months. Talking about probation period review form and probation period by itself, I'm talking about formal part. But if we'll talk about less formal, not informal, but less formal, for in job description for every manager, there are responsibilities of management. So tracking daily achievements, tracking daily business of your employee is again is responsibility of manager. So using this probation period review form, you're just formalizing it. So you shouldn't meet your employee twice in 3 months, and then during the appraisal period. So using this form, you evaluate and rate your new employee. Usually it's like personal and it's professional. So you gotta be sure and you gotta check not only professional skills that he or she really can achieve goals, but and habits, his or her attitude, his teamwork, and again. It's in the end, it's performance summary. You are rating your employee from E to U, from excellent to unsatisfactory, and using probation period review form, it's generally probably the first step to training and development. We will talk a little bit more about it, using this part of probation interview period form, you should have targets for development. Well, maybe not should, but better to have, because every employee that comes to our organization, he can't be skilled in everything. And on this stage, you can identify what exactly this person should learn, should gain, should try to change in himself if it's possible, of course. So it's going to be like the first step for training and development. Sorry. And before we move forward to performance management and appraisal, do you have any questions? Again? Nope. Performance management and appraisal, it's generally kind of complicated, but a really important part of work of every organization. Because using this procedure, you can manage and appraise, coming from the name, your employee. Again, talking about formal part of performance management and appraisal, we are talking that it shouldn't be only once a quarter. We're talking about daily management work, daily goal settings, daily checks, daily meetings, conversation, teamwork, and so on, so on, so on. So don't forget about your employees. It's really, really important. So by performing appraisal procedure for all your employees, first of all, you detect and eliminate barriers for performance. Coming back to the training and development, one of again, you can use it and you will use it to find out what exactly do they need to learn and what part of the professional skills they have to develop. Again, you are focusing your employees on the organizational goals. When I'm talking about organizational goals, because all objectives that we will talk about a little bit later, they coming from organizational goals. Or if we're talking about projects, it's going to come from projects goals. Motivation. Again, motivation, it's everyday work. But in this reviews, formal reviews, you will have ability and you'll have a chance just to highlight the performance or to highlight something that employee should do in some other way. Again, I'm trying to avoid negative connotations, and generally what every manager should do, just trying to avoid negative connotations, because when a person hears something negative, he just stops listening and he wants to defeat himself. So, talking about performance appraisal procedure, I will talk about management by objectives, because generally there are quite a lot performance appraisal procedures, and like 360 degrees, I don't know, partly objective key results, it's so named OKR. That's what I will propose you. It's based on Drucker. Management by objectives, and the meaning of this performance appraisal, it's that you gotta manage your employee by setting him objectives. Let me sorry. That's right. I will open it by itself. Talking about formal part of performance review. On the beginning of appraisal period, generally it's usually it's 1 year. I don't know if someone used less, but again, on this first meeting with your employee, you should set objectives. You probably heard about that objectives gotta be smart. I know that it sounds just a little bit strange, because of course objectives gotta be smart, but let me just again. It's again stated in HR policy. So, talking about smart, we say that every objective that is stated in this job plan, it's got to be specific, and you and employee got to understand what exactly he or she should do. And please try to avoid some continue to improve something, because it's not an objective, and it's usually really hard to measure. Did he continually or not improve something? And one more, these objectives, they shouldn't duplicate responsibilities of the employee stated in job description. It should be a little bit above. It should be in line with his or her responsibilities, but shouldn't duplicate his job description. So, talking about objectives, specific, measurable. So you really gotta measure those objectives. For example, if you have objective to contact someone So you gotta state it is like contacted 2 or 3 organizations, person or wherever. Not to just contact, not a process. You gotta state it as 2, 3, 5, 10, 200. So wherever, everything that can be measured. Achievable. If you want your employee to fly to the moon, it's of course great, and he will strive to do it. But I'm afraid for your employee, it's quite unachievable, at least for this year, or maybe 2 months. So this goal got to be achievable in the nearest future. So it's got to be achievable basically and mainly till the appraisal period. Or if it's going to be like in long term, you can just take a part of it and 50%, 60%, depends on objectives. When I mentioned that objectives gotta be in line with job description, so it should be relevant. It should be relevant to the portfolio. So you can't ask the cleaner to, I don't know, to receive a CCA diploma in accounting. And again, time bound. You gotta agree deadlines. You gotta agree deadlines with your employee. This is generally objectives. Sorry, again, it's performance. Sorry, guys. I think I closed it. Nope. Sorry. And we're talking, when we're talking about objectives, we're talking about development objectives too. So again, coming back to the probation period, we're talking about that during assessment, during appraisal, for the first meeting, for the second, for the third meeting, and even for the first meeting, formal meeting, I'm talking about formal meeting with your employee, you will have development objectives, and you will have them for all your employees. And based on those objectives, you can make training plan for the future period. You can budget it. You can say exactly what do they need, what your organization needs. Again, it should be in line with what your employees doing, and it should be in line with your organization strategy, with your organizational goals. Because if someone wants to learn Spanish, but if you don't need it, so it's not in line with your organizational goals. But if someone wants to gain some knowledge in advocacy, if it's in line with your goals, and if you get available budget for it, you should state it in here. So we have quarterly review form. Again, as you understand, quarterly review form is based on 3 months, the same as probation period. So in this formal meeting with your employee, you just check progress. Again, we don't forget about that. We gotta check this progress on daily basis, but this gotta be a formal meeting. Use these meetings to talk to your employees, to ask what they need to perform better, and to ask for feedback about your management style, about what they need from your side, because sometimes for management it's really tough to understand that they're doing something wrong, and this part is really good opportunity to hear something about how do you do it. Of course, we're not talking about some bad situations, but they may appear again. So, but if you're working on daily basis, you should probably know about those situations prior to formal review. So, just stating here all the objectives, and percentage of the completion. Or sometimes it may happen this way that you get a change in objectives. Or one objective. Why can it happen? Something maybe not achievable because of changed situation, in organization, projects, or wherever. But so you may change. Of course, you will state it in here. It's the same deadline, and again, we're talking about going back to the development and training. If you will need some additional, not only support, not only resources, but additional knowledge that you find out that you don't have, you can ask, or you can state it here. Very important thing, self-rating. It's again just an example. You can put wherever you think is really important for you, for your organization, but it's like common things. It's really good when employees self-rating and managers rating are the same, but sometimes it may happen that employee rating better than he or she performs. So again, use this situation to discuss it with your employee. If it's going to be the opposite, for example, employee, I don't know, his communication skills, he rated as, I don't know, unsatisfactory. But line manager knows, and he or she noticed that employee really have good communication skills. So talk to your employee, saying that he should treat himself a little bit better. Again, everything that I'm talking now, it will affect on work directly, and you will feel it. You will feel it really sharply. So it's really important to sign them, because it means that everyone has agreed to what they stated. By the way, prior to and quarterly review and the first meeting when setting objectives, employee gotta be informed, and he gotta know what exactly you will talk to him about and how will he appraise. Again, it's quarterly review. It's about the same form. We still leave place for some changings. Again, everything may happen. And now it's here, I opened too much. Now we're going to job performance appraisal form. It's the last one. It's the last one for the year. Here you review the skills, the objectives that you set in the beginning of the appraisal period. Again, talking about development objectives, you will use it for the future period. And in the end of your budget year or calendar year, your time period, you will use also this information to develop development plans and trainings that you will need for next year. So we've been talking about development, and you know that first where you can get this information, it's probation period. So first information about trainings that you need, you will have maximum in a month. The second one it's quarterly review, and the third one, it's final appraisal procedure. But this one you will use again mainly for planning next period. By the way, you will identify how to fulfill these development objectives, because you may use your own employees if some of them have an ability and skills to learn his coworkers something new, exactly what do they need. Or it's going to be external, or it's going to be webinars like this. So it's going to overall performance. It's again self-rating. In ideal world, it should be the same, employee and manager. And overall rating, from excellent to unsatisfactory. And again, performance development plan. Can be target, action, responsibility, and you will use it. So talking about overall rating for the appraisal period. We can have 4 types of employees, but better have 3 one. Let me pass it a little bit here. So, talking about the first one, excellence. When we talk about excellent employees, there can be 2 ways. First of all, its objectives set were not good enough. It's a bad scenario, and the good scenario, it's when you got so-called star. When you get such employee that not only achieved his or her goals, but had additional goals and performed so good and made so good impact on your organizational job. So you gotta keep them. You gotta keep developing and keep developing them. You gotta treat them in the best good way, because generally it's probably the future of your organization. You just gotta be sure that this employee will give as much as he or she can to your organization. So when I'm talking about excellence, it means that you won't have much of those employees in your organization. It may be 0, it's not bad. But if you got, for example, 30 employees in organizations, you generally can't have even 5, because it's generally too much, but you may, but you gotta review your objectives probably. So small amount, 1, 2, 3 maximum probably. Talking about good performance, it's the most common. It's the most common rate. So most of the employee, I hope, and should be rated like this. So it means most of their objectives are fulfilled, or fulfilled for 80%. Again, depends on objectives you stated. They had good attendance, teamwork, and they worked in line with the job description. So it's just good, normal employee. Satisfactory. Satisfactory is a little bit different and a little bit maybe complicated, because those employees should be rather improved or developed, or any other decision should be made. So if any employee gain a satisfactory rank or rate, in this case we will use performance improvement plan. So when I mentioned development for the organization by itself, you've seen the same sheet in there, but talking about this table, it's like personal one, because talking to an employee and identifying exactly what he or she should improve, we're talking personally to him or she. So how it works, we can state targets for future periods, and we can review and have review in even 3 weeks, in a month. It's again depends of the employee and depends of the targets that he or she will have. So no like exact time frame when you have to do those formal meeting. It's again up to decision of line manager and maybe director of the organization, how many days, weeks, months you will allow to your employee to improve his performance. And because the goal of this one, to improve performance up to required skills and that's stated in his or her job description. And the last one, it's unsatisfactory. So I hope that you won't have them. I'm happy I didn't. I'm sure that you did too. But in the very beginning, we were talking about recruitment. So if you use scoring, interview scripts, if you've been tracking performance of your employee during appraisal year, it's really, really, really rare that you will have unsatisfactory. But again, it's probably not about development, it's about decisions, what exactly to do with this employee. But again, it's not common. At least I hope that it's not common in your organization. Training and development. Again, I stated a lot and I mentioned a lot that during everything that I've been talking for an hour now, you have an opportunity to track, to make targets for future trainings and future development of your organization, of your employees, of your particular employee. By the end of this appraisal period, you already have a bunch of information, and you already may have a plan for the next year, and you can budget it already when you have revised budget. So in case you didn't have it, here's like an example. Here's like something that you may use again. You may use wherever you think is applied to your organization. But using TNA, training needs assessment, again will help you to find out what exactly do you need to achieve the goals of your organization. By the way, I've been talking so much, and all things that we've been talking about, we're talking about achieving goals of the organization. So everything that I mentioned, everything that I stated, everything that described in these policies, forms, and so on, got one goal, goals, and it's goals of your organization. So it's got to be connected. It can't be connected to something else. Let's tap on this table. So where generally you can get this information. 3 levels. It's organizational team data. It's job data, and it's individual data. If you're talking about organizational team data, again, talking about the goals of your organization, it's going to be strategic plan, it's going to be annual reports, it's going to be mission, vision, structure, KPIs, so everything that is about employees, that is what about organization by itself. Talking about data and information that you can take from middle level. If you're tracking any performance for your teams, for your departments or wherever, you can see if they achieved or not their KPIs, their key performance indicators, their goals, and what do they need. Again, going back to the performance appraisal review, you will find out it for sure. Job descriptions, going back to the job descriptions, and I mentioned it's really important thing in organizational management. We're talking about management, because knowing which person responsible for is really important for all levels of management, all levels of employees. Again, from job description, you will see requirements. Maybe if you want to obtain some new, let's say, business, and you need to learn or to find person with some skills that you didn't have before, you generally will take a look in the development. Maybe you will find such person in your organization and you just didn't use this ability. And of course, if it's, I think, the easiest way, if you're about 20-30 employees in your organization, you can track and you can interview those people. You can say to line managers to interview, to get this data from people. And of course, yeah, again, performance appraisal and probation review forms and so on, so on, so on. Again, probably I won't stop on it because it's kind of, you gotta question that you gotta ask, that what you gotta track. But I hope that if you will achieve everything that I'm talking about now, you generally won't be needed. Questions, guys?
None from my side.
Yeah, sorry, I'm drinking water.
Take your time.
Any? Again, you will have everything that I showed to you now in written form, and it's of course much more than I had an opportunity to tell you. And it's some of that what I talked about briefly, it's kind of detailed in this policy in those documents that will be attached. And you still got this opportunity.
Questions? No, I guess no questions.
All right.
All right.
All right. So you will have it shortly. In case of any questions, you may generally contact Sona or contact me. Here we go. You will have my contacts just in case if you will need anything. Don't hesitate for any additional questions regarding forms and policies. But again, the main goal of our webinar just to explain you what exactly should you do with these policies, and you will have to work it according to your organization. All right,
Max, if I can just add on it, we will have a Dropbox later on
Yeah.
with all the templates available for
Yes.
you guys, and you can take any template that you wish and modify it based on the structure and organizational needs of your and the needs of your organization. Okay. Okay.
All
Sorry
right.
for interrupting.
No. Generally, I'm done.